We will continue with the Ishwar's will, Adrishta dissolution and creation. There is one eternal desire of Ishwar, that is to uphold a moral world order. Under certain conditions, for instance, at the end of cosmic cycle, this desire operates as a sahkari or accessory cause. It suspends the constructive function of Adrishta and it helps atoms fall apart or pralay. At other times, for instance, at the start of a new creation, the same desire activates Adrishta as a constructive force. The same desire, it causes atoms to combine into bodies and worlds. So Adrishta is like a stored karmic potential in all souls and atoms. But Adrishta needs Ishwar's will as a supervisor to decide whether this potential will now work, and how should it work, in a dissolving or in a recombining direction. Dissolving, then it is pralay; recombining, then it is srishti. And then we have the sequence of creation. So at the beginning of a new cycle, movement first starts in the air atoms, that is movement, that is in the Vayu. Under the kinetic influence of Adrishta, Vayu atoms move and contact each other. They form dyads and higher aggregates. Then, in sequence, fire, water, earth also combine. And out of these forms, Brahm and the world are generated by the Ishwar. So, again, see, Brahm and worlds don't have any, cause which cannot be explained by matter. So fire, water, earth, and before that Vayu, they Brahm has been formed by these cross forms and the world as well. So Brahm is then commissioned by Ishwar. It continues the detailed work of world building and it administers the karmic results. So some Nyaya texts omit Brahm, that is also true, and they attribute supervision directly to Ishwar. That is the main point in the creation and karmic distribution are, they are purposive and guided, not blind. So now a question might arise that why this is not God's cruelty, right? So Nyaya is theodicy. So so Ishwar does not create or dissolve worlds because he is cruel or because he wants some selfish amusement. Even sorrows in the world have their assigned place. Sorrows help people turn away from the moh or worldly attachment and move towards mukti or liberation. And pleasures and pains are strictly arranged according to their merits and demerits. As a master would assign rewards and punishments to servants as per what as per the deeds which servant produces, so God also does the same, pleasures and pains to us. So Ishwar will is compared to Ichha in yoga, that is a divine volition that continues coordinating karmic ripening, and it keeps the world in harmony with the inner moral uh, desert. Now Nyaya also gives a proof for the existence of Ishwar. Who are the opponents who deny Ishwar? So Sankhya. Sankhya says Prakriti's teleology is sufficient and there is no need for a separate God. Mimamsakas, Charvakas, Buddhists and Jains also deny a creator God. Nyaya counterclaims that this Ishwar, this universe, is an effect. It is made from ever existing atoms. Like every effect, it must have a cause, and that cause of those uh, that cause is basically Ishwar, right? So universe is an effect, and the cause of that effect is Ishwar. Every effect has a cause. The world is as a whole collocation of atoms is an effect, so it must have a cause, and Nothing within that world can be the ultimate cause. Because they themselves are the effects of the cause. Therefore, the ultimate non-atomic cause is the Ishwar. Uh, Now here some objection can be placed here. What objection? For example, we can see small things like pots being produced by agents. And those we can call effects, like right, the pots, mountains, oceans, or the entire cosmic order. These are not tiny like pots. Maybe this principle that every effect has a cause, this does not apply at such a humongous scale. To that, Nyaya replies that when we recognize invariable concomitance, that is when we recognize vyapti between smoke and fire, we don't restrict the law to small puffs only. If we had seen only small household smokes, we would still infer fire from a huge forest smoke. If we are, from small to big, we are applying in case of smoke and fire. So even if we have seen only small scale artifices, the general law, whatever is put together, whatever is composite, it has a cause. So this law holds for any collocation of atom, including the world as such. So the size of the effect, it's not that the size of effect is anything special. Size of the effect does not exempt it from causality. So since the world is a composite of atoms, so it counts as an effect. Mm. And further objection can be that we don't see any maker of the world. So, why not simply say that there is no maker because we never perceive him? So to that, Nyaya says that the fact that we don't perceive him is not evidence of non-existence, right? So he may be bodiless or he may be of such a nature that we cannot grasp him. So anuplabdhi is only a good reason, anuplabdhi or absence of perception is only a good reason when if something existed, we would expect to see it. Ishwar is not an object of sight. So all effects have causes. The world is a effect. So uh, uh, hence we have positive inferential reason for a maker, even if he's not visible, right? We see the world, uh, but um, here we cannot apply anuplabdhi, that is absence of perception, because we would expect to see uh, whatever we can see, right? But Ishwar we cannot see. But we have all the things to believe that he's there because we can see the effect. So not seeing a designer is not evidence that none exists, any more than not seeing atoms is an evidence against atoms. Then another objection is that we see shoots, basically plant shoots, come out of seeds when no one is pushing them. So things can arise without an agent. So to that, Nyaya says that shoots themselves are effects of causes. Actually, that is a very poor argument, right? It obviously has a cause, but still, for the sake of some arguments, so Nyaya would be against these silly arguments, right? So shoots, we would not grant the premise at all, and then we would destroy that argument altogether. So shoots are themselves effects of causes, heat, water, soil, and adrest. Even those natural processes are governed by God. So absence of someone with hammer and chisel doesn't mean that that artisan does not exist. It only means that the creator uses some natural laws and unseen forces instead of some very, visible or overt craftsmanship. So world is an effect. It must have a cause. A cause is Ishwar, and Ishwar is infinite in knowledge and mercy. Ishwar created the Veda at the beginning of the cycle. And Ishwar is like a father always doing good to his children. Then we have the Nyāya-Vaiśeṣika physics, atoms, molecules, and ether. Uh, so the Nyāya-Vaiśeṣika physics starts from four types of eternal atoms: earth, water, fire, and air. Each atom has mass, number, fluidity, viscosity, velocity, and characteristic potential to display colors, tastes, that is, smells, touches, etc. Akash is inert, structureless, or it's the only substratum of sound. Sound is thought to travel wave-like through air. How is it possible? It's possible because of Akasha. Then we have Dhyanuka and higher molecules. So two atoms combine to form binary molecule Dhyanuka, and then two, three, four, or five of them combine to form the gross molecules, triads, tetrads. Okay. Um, in the creation stage, atoms cannot remain isolated, and atoms must be combining into molecules. But in the atmospheric air now, atoms can exist as uncombined atoms, which explains the fine pervasive nature of air. The combination can happen in, two, three, four, or more, either by atoms when they fall into groups or through an existing aggregate. The atoms keep on adding. So atoms are thought to possess constant vibratory motion or parispand. But physics is not enough because we haven't Adrist and Ishwar are also important to explain. So physical explanation, that is vibrations causing collisions and units, is not the whole story. It must be seen in connection with Adrist and the will of Ishwar. And Adrist and the will of Ishwar only give the processes a direction in accordance with the moral government of the universe. Atoms and Parispand is physical, and Adrish plus Ishwar explains why these combinations occur and fitting the karmic deserts. Then we have a discussion on how heat changes qualities. So Vaisheshika appeals to the doctrine of Pakaja Utpatti or Pilupaka, which is the heating of atoms. Nyaya appeals to the doctrine of Pitharpaka, which is the heating of molecules. So as per Vaisheshik, Pilupaka, under heat, a dyed is dismantles or breaks down into its atoms. The heat change then changes the characteristics of the atoms themselves. Then the atoms recombine under the new atomic characters, and as a result, a new quality in the gross object is formed. So heat disintegrates, then transforms atoms, then recombines, then new gross quality germinates. But in Nyaya appeals to Pitharpaka. It disagrees with Vaisheshik, and it says that we have no need to posit atom level disintegration and reconsolidation. The atoms, remain the same. Heat just changes the qualities of molecules directly. Now, the tiny particles of fire, so the corpuscles, they penetrate the porous body and they modify the qualitative state of its molecules, and which gives rise to new colors. So heat acts at the molecular level, not by breaking the object all the way down to atoms. And this is one of the more a few doctrinal differences between later Nyaya and later Vaisheshika. Then we have a discussion on compounds of the same bhuta versus many bhutas. Chemical compounds can form among atoms of the same bhuta. For instance, the different earth compounds can form, chemical compounds, or atoms of different bhutas. For instance, compounds of earth plus water. According to Nyaya, there is no intrinsic difference between atoms of the same bhuta. And why do we see differences in gross things then, for instance, between barley and rice? This is entirely due to different ways atoms are co-located. Because atoms are co-located in different ways, we see differences in loading. Udyotakara says that atoms of barley and atoms of paddy are indistinguishable as atoms of earth. So under continuous heat, atoms can take on new characters, and heat is presented as the only physical cause of transformation of color. taste, etc. in atoms. And this sort of change depends on the kind of substances in contact, the intensity of heat, and the kind of heat corpuscles involved. So, heat, what it does, heat dismantles or breaks bodies in contact into atoms and then transforms their quality characters and then forms new compounds out of these transformed atoms. Now, we have Prashasthapada, the Vaisheshik commentator Prashasthapada, offering a more nuanced view. He says that for a higher compound of the same bhuta, transformation takes place within the constituent atoms of the compound molecules. And here's the important difference, it is not by going back to the free bhuta atoms outside the compound. We can understand it through an analogy, the transformation from milk to curd. So, milk is a complex compound. So, it is a special molecular configuration of earth atoms plus some other bhutas. When milk turns into curd, the transformation occurs in the milk atoms, you know, as within the milk molecule, and there is no need to break the milk molecule all the way to generic earth atoms. So, we will only say that the transformation occurs in the milk atoms, not to the generic earth atoms. So, within the existing milk structure, heat causes a rearrangement of the already milk determined atoms. So, now they constitute curd. So, curd is nothing but a modification of milk atoms in situ. It is not a brand new aggregate of earth atoms, right? So, it is modification of the milk atoms in situ. We have another example of fertilized ovum to germ to embryo. The fertilized ovum contains the germ and maternal ovum, and both are isomeric forms of earth with other bhutas. And under the influence of internal heat and vital wind, uh, they are broken up into more homogeneous earth atoms, which combine to form the kalala or the germ plasm. So, note that fertilized ovum contains the germ and the maternal ovum. These are forms of earth because of heat and vayu. So, they are broken into earth atoms which combine to form the kalala. So, this is another example. Here we can see the modification, you know, uh, directly the earth atoms are combining, not in the case of milk where milk atoms are combining, not the earth. As development proceeds, the germ feeds on the mother's blood, and animal heat breaks down the food molecules into atoms, constituent atoms, and then those atoms specifically group to form the germplasm atoms. And these new atoms combine with atoms of food constituents to form cells and tissues. And the special atomic contact that starts such a biological body building chain, that is called Arambhaka Samyog, which is the initiating contact. So that is Prashastha gives a very atomic biochemical account of development. That is nutritional atoms under heat plus vayu plus adrist, they recombine into structured tissues. Then we have molecular discussion on polybhautic compounds and upstambh. So, the single bhoot compounds from one element or the bibhoot or poly uh, bhoot compounds from two or more elements have been explained. Now we get a special kind of contact named upstambh. So, in certain subs compounds with more than one or polybhut compounds, for instance, oil, fats, or fruit juices, earth atoms cannot combine with each other unless they are surrounded and supported by water atoms. So, what happens in this case? The water atoms, they round up or they congregate around the earth atoms. And this surrounding condition is called upastambha or support. And under the impact of heat corpuscles, earth atom within this water sheath acquire special qualities. So for some compounds, combination requires not just contact of the atoms themselves, but the combination also requires a supporting envelope of another element, also requires action of heat. So some substances like gold are described as Tejas atoms or fire elements, and earth elements uh, are the surrounding upstam. So gold are basically Tejas elements, and earth atoms are just the surrounding upstam. And solutions, for example, salt in water, are treated as physical mixtures. And these are not chemical compounds. So the solute molecules just maintain their own structure. They are just dispersed in water. And Udayana, who was a later Nyayik, he said that the solar heat is the ultimate source of heat, and solar heat produces all chemical changes. So, but heat can act on matter in different modes. For example, conduction, radiation. Conduction is the heat traveling through interatomic spaces. For instance, when the pot on fire becomes hot. Then we have radiation, that is light rays entering through interatomic spaces, which explains transparency or refraction or deflection of light beams. Then we have reflection, which is heat or light rays hit atoms and bounce back. And then we have breaking up groupings. That is, special heat rays strike atoms so that they break existing groupings. They transform the physico-chemical characters of atoms, and then they recombine into new compounds. These are the breaking up groupings. So they break existing groupings and they alter the chemical characteristics, physical chemical characteristics, and then recombine into new compounds. And all of this is done by continual impact with velocity which we cannot even conceive of. That is very fast, very huge velocity of extremely small heat particles. Govardhan, who was a later Nyaya writer, he defines spark as combination of different kinds of heat acting in various ways on molecules. So, what are the different kinds of heat then? That is, uh, a particular kind of heat may change the color of a fruit, but it wouldn't change the taste. Some other kind of heat may change the taste, but it wouldn't change color. Another may change the smell. For example, grass, when the cows eat grass, the special heat in the cow's bodies decomposes the grass and turns its taste, color, smell into those of milk. Therefore, heat is a very general cause, but different kinds and intensities of heat in different contexts. Depending upon these contexts and intensities, the outcome generated would be, and the transformations generated would be very different. So, in Nyāya-Vaiśeṣika, every action of matter on matter is reduced to motion. That is, atoms are always vibrating. Heat, light are also tiny moving particles. An important boundary is that conscious activity or prayatna is independent of the material motions. Sankhya Yoga had said that everything but Purush arises from Prakriti and is subject to vibratory motion. Nyaya Vaisheshik agrees that Prakriti and evolved things are vibratory, but on the other hand, it does not accept Sankhya's Purush Prakriti framework. It distinguishes material motion from the prayatna belonging to the Atman. That is, it distinguishes the material motion from the psychic will or psychic efforts which belongs to the Atman alone. Physics might explain the vibratory motion of atoms, but effort, desire, cognition of an Atman are not reducible to mere vibration.